And with that, we get to our main event. We have a rematch. The third fight to close the trilogy. We have Dustin Poirier against Max Holloway. And something that I haven't mentioned yet is that this is for the BMF title. Like no one cares, but yeah, this is like a very apt fight to end the career of Dustin Poirier, former interim lightweight champion, against a longtime rival, former featherweight champion Max Holloway. So let's begin with uh, what what have these guys been up to since their last fight. So let's begin a bit with Poirier. So Poirier, as we know, he won that fight unanimous decision against Max Holloway. That was like 6 years ago, more than 6 years ago actually. He went to fight Habib Nurmagomedov in a fight that I don't think he looked very good in. He didn't quite fight the right fight. He still had Habib in trouble like twice. Like he kind of like stumbled him with punches at one moment, and then he got him like in a very tight guillotine. And I'm not just saying like it was Habib, the guy that said like that was the closest that Nurmagomedov was to ever lose in the worst of Habib, when Dustin had a very close guillotine, and Dustin should have used that to sweep, but he went completely for it. Then Dustin came back, had that banger of a fight, an old timer with Dan Hooker, maybe the best like Apex fight of all time. Became a superstar by beating Conor McGregor, beat Conor McGregor again. That got him another title shot against Charles Oliveira in a fight with I think like Dustin did not look his best, and also I don't think he was like physically all there. And he had the wrong approach when it came to the grappling. Dustin then came back, fought Michael Chandler, won a very gritty fight. Then went on to fight Justin Gaethje in a rematch. Dustin previously beat Justin Gaethje in way to get that title shot against Max. Sadly, Dustin got kicked in the head in that fight. Just like the wrong read situation kind of thing. He got knocked out like out cold, so we gotta like consider that. That's like the first time that we'd seen like Dustin like super out. Like that was a worse knockout than like the Conor or the Michael Johnson. You gotta see that Dustin was like awake immediately after those. He went to sleep hard against Justin Gaethje. Then he came back against Benoit Saint Denis. I don't think Dustin looked good there either. I mean, he looked physically decent, but he fought like a very silly fight. But then he killed Benoit Saint Denis. And then somehow, like, Dustin gets that final title shot against Islam Makhachev. And he looks very good in that fight. His striking looked very pared down, but I think that was a conscious choice to give like priority to his takedown defense there. And the best that Dustin's hips have ever looked in I mean, not ever, but in a very long time. Like, I think Dustin had better hips for Islam that he did against Habib, to be quite honest. And he fought with a very good, like, just like, he stayed consistent with his strategy of feeding the single leg limp, legging out. And he was, like, very physical in that fight. He had very good cardio, ended up, like, getting tired at the end. I think what played the most against Dustin in that fight is that he got like a bad takedown in the first round, fighting a bit silly, and he got like damaged and got tired on that first round, and that was like he was like climbing the mountain from that moment, right? He fought a lot better since the second round, but he still had like the damage from that first round. And then he ended up getting submitted on the fifth round in a very valiant effort, because we know Islam Makhachev is very, very good. Holloway, on the other part, Holloway was the featherweight champion when he fought Dustin. He went on to beat Frankie Edgar in a very easy fight. Frankie Edgar like very busted right at that moment and wasn't able to threaten Holloway with any kind of takedowns. And then Holloway met his match in Alexander Volkanovski. They had a very close fight the first time around, but that everyone thought like Volkanovski took. with a game plan that revolved around leg kicks. Then they had the rematch. Max looks on fire the first 2 rounds. Then Volkanovski kind of mounts a comeback. You could argue that Max won that second fight. The judges didn't see it his way. Then he came back with an all-timer performance against Kelvin Kattar. Then he fought Jair Rodriguez, where he might have seen the first signs of him kind of slowing down a little bit, struggling at times. With Jair, even though he was a very dominant win. Then he fought Volkanovski, and that was for the third time, and that was a low point for Max Holloway until that moment. Volkanovski just won every round. Was won 8 out of 10 exchanges. Volkanovski just looked on fire that night. He had Alex figured out. But then Max bounced back, beat Arnold Allen over 5 rounds, knocked out the Korean Zombie in round 3, and then he moves up to lightweight. This time with he puts on a bit of weight. He fights Justin Gaethje for the BMF title. He gets that absolutely ridiculous, legendary knockout in the last second of the 5th round. Unbelievable. That kind of shit that you would see in a movie and you would not believe. And he goes back to featherweight, fights Ilia Topuria. Fantastic fight, by the way, against Topuria. Great fight. But gets knocked out bad by a left hook. A follow-up round and pound. And now he gets back to lightweight and he's fighting Dustin here. So just giving a bit of context to this. Now we will talk about the first fight a little bit. What changed since. And we'll be talking about some potential predictions. So dynamics of the first fight. Dustin was... I feel like a lot of people talk about Dustin Poirier's power in that first fight, and that obviously is not wrong. Dustin has a considerably power edge against Holloway. A lot was talked about Holloway maybe not bulking enough to take the shots, but I think that Dustin is a real puncher. Holloway is good at controlling the initiative of fights, but his defense has never been great, and Dustin was able to set him up with his dexterous punching, some shifting entries. I think that Dustin was longer than Holloway was expecting, and he was getting tagged a lot from long range. And during that first and second round, Dustin's ability to get on top of Holloway when he was hurting him and put combinations against the cage and mitigate a lot of the counters from Max Holloway were very effective. And another thing that I think surprised Max Holloway on that second fight was that after the first round, you can tell they showed Max Holloway smiling because he felt Dustin Poirier put a lot on that first round, and he was okay, I'm going to snowball from here, I'm taking over from here. And then Dustin Poirier went and beat his shit again on the second round. And I think that Holloway was very surprised at the gas tank of Dustin Poirier. Obviously, if you gotta give the edge in the gas tank department to any of them, it's going to be Holloway. But Dustin showed up in tremendous shape for that fight. He was able to pursue the finish for 2 rounds and then still be there. And I was talking about with my dear friend Dan Albert, who is present in the chat right now, that Dustin can he can get sketchy in prolonged exchanges inside the pocket, but to be able to exploit that, you need to get there in that place in the first place, and that could be very dangerous. And the thing with Dustin Poirier that a lot of people don't realize is that when you exchange in the pocket with Dustin Poirier is one of the most skilled and ambidextrous boxers inside the pocket that we've seen in MMA. And what I say with that is that sometimes when you think you have an angle on Dustin Poirier is one of those guys that actually can work around a bad angle, and he knows what punches to use from both hands to hurt you from those positions. And I think that's something that surprised Max Holloway. Max Holloway would get like outside foot positioning, and he would be like minding the right hand of Dustin Poirier, which would be on the inside, but Dustin Poirier would surprise him like punching with a wide hook that would go across. Even though he's from Dustin would be on the with inside foot positioning, which makes that hook like a lot longer. Dustin is very comfortable at boxing from bad positions, just because he's like very accurate and powerful from both sides, and he's able to generate power a lot of the times just from his arms, from weird positions. So Holloway was like, okay, I got you here. I should be the harder puncher from this position, and Dustin Poirier would go like, wait a second, dude, like, I'm still the harder puncher here, like. So that was a very interesting dynamic, that it was not just about the power, it was the ability of Dustin Poirier to remain being the puncher deep into exchanges, even though Holloway was like out positioning at times, draining him with body shots and that kind of stuff. I think that Dustin was like establishing a long range too. So he was like seeing the entries by Holloway a lot of the time. And a few times that Dustin was put on the defensive, Dustin showed up with good defense. A lot of people have been like giving Dustin crap because of the Stonewall defense, but there's a very popular clip of that fight. Max Holloway goes to his corner, I think after round 3, and he's complaining about the Stonewall. He says he's blocking weird. And it's because like Holloway was punching like the top of the head, the elbow, and the shoulder of Dustin, and he was like not getting the damage that he wanted in those combinations. So Dustin was like, maybe the best use of the Stonewall by Dustin was in that fight against Max Holloway. So what had Holloway going for him in that fight? As always, like Holloway, when he put Dustin on the back foot, he showed his own combination punching, his shot selection, going to the body, pouring out the volume. Dustin was making sure to be like very picky with the counter shots, to give like to stop like Max here and there. He was not putting a full stop, but he was winning a few seconds to regain his footing here and there, regain an angle, and exchange again. And when they any like small adjustment for Dustin would mean that, okay, I'm giving myself a better chance to exchange with this guy in this moment. But Holloway was remaining dynamic, so since that fight, and then obviously Holloway was able to find the volume on 3rd round, most of the 4th round, but Dustin surprised too with another thing. Sorry if I'm talking so much about Dustin, but I feel like at the time the narrative was that Max was going to drown Holloway, that Max was the more refined fighter. And in some aspects of MMA he is, for sure. I feel like Max Holloway is more versatile. He's a more dangerous fighter to get tired against. Has obviously the better gas tank. Insanely durable, maybe more durable than Dustin, right? So I'm talking about the things that Dustin did to allow him to win that fight. And one of those was the ability of Dustin to fight in transitions. Max Holloway, historically in featherweight, very strong clinch fighter. But Dustin Poirier was using like his strength advantage to good use. He was not successful with takedowns. Holloway has very strong hips against the cage. And Dustin more of a grindy wrestler, more than a takedown, than a nuanced takedown artist against the fence. But what Dustin did was using the clinch in a few key spots. There was a foot sweep after hurting Holloway on the 1st round. And he was like, it wasn't like the classic bicep control collar tie. It was like a double collar tie, very strong collar tie that made Holloway think about the knee to the body. And he went with a beautiful foot sweep. Didn't complete the takedown, but he put Holloway out of his balance. And then on the 4th round, you have the big knee that Dustin landed in transition, Dustin is also famous about like punching very hard inside the clinch, which was also another thing that played a decent part in a few times. So yeah, it was like, and then Dustin fought at like a brilliant fifth round, like fighting behind the jab. They had like similar volume. I felt like Dustin was landing the harder shots on that fifth round. Then he tried for a final takedown, didn't get it, but I think he did enough. So what has changed since? I feel like Max has had like better showings since, so I think that he has that going for him, right? Uh, Max Holloway is the younger fighter in this fight, for sure. I think he's 3 years. Let me recheck my stats, but yeah, Max Holloway 3 years younger than Dustin Poirier, right? Yes, he is. So Max is 33. Dustin is 36. Uh, Max has had 34 professional bouts, and Dustin 39. The amount of damage that both guys have taken has been very high. You gotta consider that Dustin did not take that much concussive damage against Islam in his last fight. That was more than a year ago. While Holloway was 8 months ago, he was knocked out bad. Like the bad knockout that Dustin was in the receiving end of was against Gaethje. That was almost 2 years ago. Holloway less than a year ago, bad knockout. So you gotta consider that, right? Now I think Holloway has been dialing back the volume in the last few performances. Even against like Arnold Allen, when he started snowballing, he was fighting at a lower volume. He was still very active in all the fights against the Korean Zombie, against Gaethje, against Ilya. He was a bit more calculated, a bit like dialed back, a bit more thoughtful about shot selection, more than like marauding over the opponents. And I think that could play into Dustin's hands. Because I think like in a slow fight, like the big moments of Dustin can account for a lot more, right? I feel that Holloway is still an underrated puncher. Just ask Justin Gaethje, who got like super knocked out. But you gotta give the edge in the power to Dustin, right? Like he still has that. Like he put Benoit Saint-Denis out with that right hook. What might change here? Holloway might not get on the pressure as often, but he might kick a lot more in this fight, which will be interesting because this is an open stance matchup. Poirier was like kicking more than usual in their second fight, right? When I talk about the previous fight, let's say previous fight. He was using that front kick to the body. He was stepping into leg kicks, which I think is something that Poirier might want to get back here. Now, we'll see if Poirier tries more clinching here. I don't think Poirier should try for a lot of takedowns in this fight. I think that Holloway showed up to be like a bad matchup wrestling-wise for Dustin. He's just very strong against the cage, defending with his hips. And that's like the kind of takedowns that Poirier usually takes. Unless Poirier can surprise with a takedown in open space like he did against McGregor, but we'll see about that. I think hopefully Dustin shows up again with very sharp striking. He showed glimpses of his sharp striking against Oliveira. I don't think he looked as good as he did against Max though, or against Conor even. He showed up like a good combination punching against Chandler at the end of that first round. He was looking sharp on that third round too. Dustin, when Dustin gets like on you and he uses his power, he opens up the counters big time. He was like hitting pull counters on Max Holloway the first time around. Holloway has gotten better at countering himself since their second meeting. Holloway has never been kind of like the same time counter kind of guy, but he's like, he makes you take your turn and then he counters you as you're done or as you're retreating, and he puts volume on those situations, right? And we've seen that the cage grab from Dustin has been like suspect at times. So I think Holloway wants to replicate those moments where he put Poirier against the cage and he was like hitting the body. Hopefully, like for Mac's sake, like kicking more this time around. Maybe like throwing a few head kicks here and there to like maybe like make Dustin like more shy about moving his head, like putting the high guard up, and so he can attack the body more effectively. For Dustin, I would say like body work as well. Body work as well. It just like it's not that you're going to super tire Max Holloway. You should not count on that. But it opens up. It hurts. It opens up the head. And the right hook is going to be key once again for the diamond here. Right hook, the counter left hand, especially on pull counters, because you're going to make Max Holloway throw back if you find the big punches. So that's the dynamic here. I feel like Holloway should try to like, if he's going to be like this new version of Holloway, I think he will want to use like the kicks to make Dustin reset. Punish every time that Dustin is doubting himself, push him against the cage. Go with a quick combinations, attack the body, throws a few head kicks here and there, stomp the lead knee, go that, reset, center of the cage, control the initiative. Dictate when combination starts, when Dustin goes seconds, and then Holloway goes third. That's for me, that's the very clear dynamic that Holloway should follow here. For Dustin, on the other hand, I feel in this fight, like he doesn't need to like go to pressure because it's something that Dustin doesn't do anymore either. But he needs to do similar to the first time, like stay in neutral space but be aggressive. Makes Holloway back up. Put like complex combinations together that are able to find Holloway on the fourth punch. Kick him. If Holloway is too far, kick him. Do not neglect body work. Be active with catching clinches. Don't be shy to go to the clinch. You're even if Holloway is like physically strong and is bulking up, I think that it's very likely that Poirier is still the physically stronger guy of the two. Go into clinches, work the body, use your transition work. Look for elbows, look for knees. Attack with kicks when Holloway goes back, and then try to look for the big right hook, the counter left hand when they get into exchanges. Try to not get like... Go extend combinations when you are the one dictating the pace for Dustin. I think that's the most important thing, is that if you want to go like 10 punches deep into a combination, it's because you decided that you're going there. If Holloway is trying to extend the combinations, just pick your counter, grab a clinch, get out of there, try to reset. I think that's the dynamic for Poirier. I think, to be like perfectly frank, like I feel like a lot of what we've seen from both fighters, it tends to favor Holloway. But it's not just that I want to believe, it's that at the end of the day, that there are things about the matchup that are like in Poirier's favor. And I think it's like this kind of combination puncher is problematic for Holloway. We've seen like Volkanovski in that third round wasn't like playing Dustin Poirier, but there were some elements of the quick counters, of the controlling the initiative and countering Holloway when he thought that it was his turn, right? And then we saw Ilia Topuria, same thing, like all three fighters, like very different. Obviously, there are similarities between the three, right? Between Volkanovski, Poirier, and Topuria. But I feel it's like that power combination puncher, yeah, and that's something that Justin Gaethje doesn't have. Justin Gaethje is about very compact combinations. Even if you go back and see Justin Gaethje as his pressuring best, what he did was like 1 to 3 punches, and then he gets on top of you again and 1 to 3 punches. And he was not able to like work his counter game against Max Holloway because he's not that nuanced of a puncher. He's good, he has good instincts, but he doesn't have like that finesse and the amount of setups that a guy like Volkanovski, that Dustin Poirier, and Ilia Topuria have. And I feel that that's something that it's a complicated matchup for Max Holloway. I feel like both guys have gotten older. I think like both guys like are not as durable, as conditioned as they were in their second fight. But I think like largely the dynamics remain the same, and it's on both to make like some adjustments. And I feel like Holloway might be the more experimental one of the two. He might bring, especially I think that Holloway will bring a more heavy kick approach this time around. But I think that Dustin will be ready for it. Like Dustin never super great at dealing with kicks, but he has the tools to make like Holloway exchange under his terms. And if Holloway is a bit less durable, I think that Poirier, he's still very durable. He got put out with a nasty kick by Gaethje. That's not a normal strike to eat. Like no one survives that, right? And Holloway, he got hurt by Topuria with that left hook, but that's still like a punch from a guy at 145. Like if there's like doubts again about durability, like I'm not saying that Poirier has the better chin of the two, but in the equation, I feel like when you put like power against chin of the both of them, I think this is a more dangerous fight for Max Holloway. Like Dustin Poirier is a big puncher, and Holloway is like a good puncher, but we haven't seen Dustin Poirier put out by a good puncher yet. We've seen Dustin Poirier put out by like big punchers in Conor McGregor and Michael Johnson when he was like blindsided and not seeing the shots coming. And Max Holloway might be able to find a shot that Poirier doesn't see coming and put him out. That's completely possible. But I think it's a lot more possible that Dustin Poirier puts like a long combination together that exalts the defense of Max Holloway and finds him again. So yeah, I think this might be like wishful thinking. I don't know. I don't feel like I might be picking with the heart a little bit, but I think it's like I made my points clear. I think this one is going to be a war. I'm very happy that Dustin Poirier gets to retire under this fight. And if Max Holloway wins, like, I'm fine with it. I'll be sad, but Max Holloway is a tremendous fighter. One of my favorites too, so it is whatever. But I'll be honest, my pick here, Dustin Poirier closes the trilogy with another victory. He goes 3-0 against the Hawaiian, and that's what it is.